Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis.
Plants. Oh, I could totally skip one day. They'll be okay. No, no, no.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. I am Uncle Dig, your host, and I have a lovely show for you today. I have another garden update for you, which I'm sure you're very excited about. And I have, as a guest, the lovely Mel Forrest, all the way from the Great White North, i.e. Canada, and I cannot wait to share that lovely interview with you. We got into weed, both growing and consuming, her personal journey. We even got into a little bit of spirituality, which isn't always a feature on this show. So I think you might enjoy that. Now, I know the weather has been and will continue to be incredibly hot out there. Please take the time to give yourself and your plants a little more water than you think you need. Good luck out there. Stay safe, and let's overgrow the world. Uncle Dig's garden update. Hey, it is July 25th, 2022. And I'm in gardening zone 8B, and here's your garden update. I have sprayed Dr. Zymes night before last. Before that, it had been a while since I sprayed anything due to the nights being a bit too windy. I will be spraying BT tomorrow evening to mitigate caterpillars, and I will be spraying an as-needed rotation of Dr. Zymes and BT, as well as spraying the plants off every other morning at a minimum. I'll also be scouting for pests constantly and smashing them with my fingers. I have mitigated the aphids significantly and have not been finding near as many on my bug hunts. I haven't seen grasshoppers. Leafhoppers are still present, but the yellow beetles got decimated, I think, by wasps that have taken to hunting in my plants. Thanks, ladies. All the plants are over my head. If you adjust for the pots picking the plants up off the ground, my tallest plant is probably around 7 or 8 feet tall. That's the Northern Lights. And my shortest is probably around 6 feet tall. That's the Canatonic. The plants are much thirstier. The smallest container is 20 gallons and gets 6 gallons of water daily. The 30-gallon containers have just started getting 8 gallons of water today. They were getting 6 last week. The 45-gallon container received 10 gallons of water today, up from 8 yesterday. So I don't think I'm going to go much higher on their daily water intake. I don't think at this point, I don't think they could take more. They could uptake any more. It's very, very hot. All the plants have their second trellis who are going to get their second trellis. I might trellis the Canatonic again. The smallest Amnesia Haze is not going to get a second trellis. I pruned the Fire of Maroof 5 this week and the Canatonic. The Canatonic is looking like it's flowering again. Maybe next week I can tell you definitively. I say it is, but my silent partner is convinced that it isn't. To be honest, a couple of early harvests would be good this year. I really don't want this year to be the year all the girls finish at once. I usually am able to stagger my harvest, which is one of the reasons I grow so many different strains. My Northern Lights will probably be bottom pruned too. It is my tallest lady, towering over even my biggest Fire of Maroof, which were started a full month and a half before it. The Northern Lights is a bit leggy. I am curious to see her bud structure. Now, my pepper garden is going great. I have tried a number of the rainbow chilies, and they are delicious. I tried another hybrid yesterday. It was super spicy. It looked kind of like a jalapeno, but it burned hotter than a serrano. Cool pepper. I call it K-hole. I have harvested a Hungarian black pepper, but have yet to eat it. I've made 1 jar of hot sauce now. It's delicious and very true to form. Some of the hot sauce I make this year will be something special. Now the chickens are laying well, and Agnes, Clementine, Ruby, and Esmeralda are all doing fine. I hope everyone is having good luck in the garden and life. Maybe do the chores in the mornings and evenings during these dog days, folks. Stay safe. Wear a hat. It's hot. Let's overgrow the world. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Bagseed Chronicles, please share it with a friend. After all, the best bag seeds are the ones shared among friends. Everyone, please welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles, Mel Forrest. Mel is a cannabis consumer, a professional piercer, a prolific poster on social media, a disability rights advocate, and a resident of the Great White North, i.e. Canada, where weed is legal nationwide. Welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles, Mel.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you finally. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's a nice, relaxing day today, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm not having as chill a day as you are, but I am getting a lot of stuff done, so I'm always grateful for that.
That's good. Sometimes busy days are good days, not always, but
Yeah.
sometimes.
Today's been pretty good so far. What's the weather like up there? We usually talk about the weather in our gardens.
It is awful right now. It has been a mix of rain. We've been having a lot of flooding here.
Oh,
So
no.
not the best. We would like some more warm weather.
Yeah, so you're up very, very far north in Canada, right? In Prince George, right?
Technically, I am like in the middle of British Columbia. So
Okay.
kind of what we consider like the tourist spot, because a lot of people kind of stop in amongst their travels. A lot of people, when they head to Alaska, places like that, it's usually the middle of the stop, and you can choose to either go like the scenic route or the fast route. So we get a lot of tourists that come in here. But overall, it's an all right town.
Cool. And do you do any gardening or anything? Are you doing any gardening this year?
Not this year. Last year, I've been trying. I've been trying to learn a little bit more about my green thumb. Not necessarily the best, but we tried. Let's see. I tried tomatoes and squash and pumpkin. None of them made it, unfortunately.
That's all right. I'm learning as I get older that not everyone just is compelled to grow things, and then when they are compelled, sometimes they don't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very fortunate. I've been very lucky in my plant adventures for sure. Speaking of plants, what are you smoking on today?
I believe it's a type of kush. Couldn't tell you, to be honest. I usually just grab whatever they have. I don't care, to be honest. Not a picky smoker, but I remember they did mention it was one of the Kush families.
Well, a nice kush is always nice.
I definitely prefer indica over any of them, but I'll smoke anything.
I'll smoke a sativa or two in the morning, but by the afternoon, I don't need any more energy. So I'm generally smoking indica hybrids or indicas for sure. And I love Afghans. Those were the first plants I
Yeah,
ever saw. So I have a soft spot in my heart for them.
maybe that's why I'm more of an indica. I think the first I ever tried was an indica. So, curious to know if that's maybe like the little thing behind me that makes me enjoy it a little bit more.
Maybe. I don't know. Are you super like energetic most of the time, like as your default when you're sober?
Mm, oh, that's a hard one. I think it really depends if I'm around people that are more uppity.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I
you're kind of influenced by others around you a bit.
Yeah, others' energy definitely influences how I behave a lot more. So I would think I would be more of it. Nah, I can be sporadic, can I?
Oh, okay. A little bit unpredictable. See, me, I'm definitely usually all go. So
Oh,
the indica
I
helps calm me down and slow me down so I can pay a little more attention and smell the
that
roses.
there. I think mine's more. I use more for pain than more of a mood stabilizer. I think that's why I think I'm always kind of a giddy, happy person for the most part.
Oh no, I can't claim that as in my nature that I'm necessarily like happy-go-lucky. I try to be, but I can be very like intense, let's say. Um, but
Fair.
so the United States has a weird patchwork of systems in place for cannabis legalization. But I
Mhm.
understand that Canada has a federal system. Can you kind of explain how that kind of works? We don't have to get super into the weeds, like literally just as a consumer. Like if I was in Canada, how would I get a hold of cannabis?
So I know a little bit. I don't know like a huge amount just because I do have friends that have dispensaries and stuff, but I do know. So we've got a federal and then a provincial. So the federal is basically what all guidelines across Canada have to have.
Right.
And you've got provincial. So each province itself can decide from there what they want to do as long as they are under those guidelines. For
Okay.
instance, each province is different legal age.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
He
Wow.
is 19, Alberta's 18. I believe it's 19 for the rest, except for I think Quebec's the odd one. Quebec likes to not be included. They enjoy their separation. So I think they may be, no, then maybe they are 19. I would have to
I,
check on that.
I'm not
Confirm.
going to step into inter-Canadian politics, especially where the French and English speaker kind of divide on things. I don't know enough about it, and I don't even know who I agree with, so I'm staying out of it.
Honestly, I only know little bits and pieces because I have friends that live in Quebec, but I personally don't know enough to make a actual call on my own opinion. So to each their own.
Hey,
I am
so
half French, so I mean, like I should know more.
well, it's funny, that the ages that you're quoting to me, 19, 18, 19, 18, that makes me think that Canada might become like the next like green Cancun, like spring breakers from all the northern colleges got to start going up there to get their green on.
Probably. I mean, you can technically, I believe I had my mortgage, the bank, like the insurance company call me every year. They just upgrade all the insurance and stuff. And one of the new things I noticed they have to ask now is if you are a cannabis grower, you're allowed to legally grow up to 6 plants.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
interesting because there's special insurance that the house has to put on if you do grow. And I thought that was an interesting little perk that they
Oh, I don't like that. Maybe I'm gonna be one of those old fuddy duddies. It's like, don't let the federal government get in
let
weed.
them know.
Oh, that's funny. So that's something I never even thought of because
Hmm.
mortgages and banking are federally regulated, I guess, both in Canada and in the United States. So that's an interesting commonality. So when cannabis became legally federally there, they actually had some say on what kind of insurance people had to get and stuff like that. So it never
Hmm.
even occurred to me that my base expenses would go up because of legalization. That's an interesting thing to
Uh-huh.
think about.
Taxes and everything went up. I'm actually surprised they didn't legalize weed sooner because of how much money. Like they've been planning to do it for a while because the first day
Never let a conservative tell you they love money more than controlling other people.
true, true words. Don't even get me started on government and control. And that's a whole other
Oh yeah, we could go on a real rant, and I'm sure we'd both be
rabbit
confused
hole
a
of
little
that
bit.
one.
Oh yeah, because I've noticed that when I go on like when I talk to people from other countries and we
Mhm.
have political conversations,
Mhm.
eventually we're talking past each other because Commonwealth politics are different than the United States politics, and some
Mhm.
of the way people fall is confusing to Americans because you'll be like, yeah, you should be able to do whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, but gun control makes sense. You're like, wait, what? What do they say?
I am so mixed about that
I,
only because
yeah.
I grew up very Christian. So I was always told and grew up like, guns are bad, guns are bad. But then, as you know, I'm married to a US Army vet, and he is very much guns, guns, guns.
Oh,
So it,
hold on. There's a cultural artifact. So
yeah.
you were Christian and you were raised to be against guns.
Yeah, my parents are still very if we get onto the topic about gun control, you will hear my mom argue very heavily that we, even in Canada, need stronger gun control.
How delightfully ideologically consistent. All of our Christians down here are heavily armed, and they do not turn the other cheeks, except the Quakers. The Quakers.
Interesting that your Christians are so, give me my fucking guns. We're here. We are, I can't say for every, but I do
No,
find
they're
a
not a monolith. The pagans aren't a monolith. No religious group is a monolith. But generally, if you're talking to a rural Christian in America, not only do they own guns, they probably own more than five.
Oh, see, it's so different here. A lot of them are very don't have guns. My mom cringes at the idea that I would be okay teaching my kids how to use a gun and so on and so forth. Like
I
we
feel
def-
like everyone in North America should be a little bit familiar with how guns work just because they're everywhere.
yes, I agree. See, it does weird me out though, like hearing that you could go just to a Walmart and there's guns and alcohol in a store. To me, that's so foreign just because we just got our very first grocery store that now has wine in it. Just wine, no hard alcohol, but it's just so foreign to me because it's just not something we're used to. The government has their very own liquor store. They monitor that, they sell all that.
That's
So,
how the state I live in, Oregon, is, but federally, alcohol has basically been left up to the states except
mhm,
for age of consent laws.
mhm,
So the way they forced everyone to go 21 and up was they
mhm.
said if you want federal highway funds, you have to raise it to 21, and then everyone did.
Oh, sneaky.
Well, it was pretty open. Um, so I heard early on that Canada was like you wouldn't necessarily go to a dispensary. Sometimes you'd mail order the cannabis.
You can still do that. There's in bigger cities, my town doesn't have it just because we're too small. But in, let's say, Calgary, my friend has something called Weed Maps. You literally order weed and somebody will just go to the dispensary, pick it up, and drop it to you.
Oh, so
um,
it's a delivery. Okay.
yeah, it's like a delivery service. You can send weed across Canada Post too, as well. It takes longer. A lot of people
That's
just
amazing.
order. It is pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie. We got our first dispensary. My friend actually owns, her and her husband, and they just did free delivery all across town. And it's so wonderful because you could be at work, and if you can't leave, literally you order it as long as you have your ID to make sure it's you. They'll sign off and you get it. It's so fucking wonderful.
That's awesome. So, are there a lot of home growers in Canada?
Oh hell yeah.
Awesome.
Dispensary honestly sucks. It's
Okay.
it the very first day Canada made it legalized, they have been hoarding it for so long that a lot of it was moldy and dry.
Oof.
It was gross. And like they do a lot of additives. They say it's not pesticides, but you know it's fucking pesticides when you get like popcorn lung and shit like that from smoking it. So I would probably say 60 to 70% probably still go black market and go to friend growers. I don't think a lot of my friends that I know personally that smoke go to the dispensary unless it's the
Right.
last resort.
I said I generally try not to go to the dispensary. I prefer home grow as well, but sometimes I go, like you said, as last resort, or if they've got something that intrigues me.
Yeah, once in a while it could just be the name. The name is just like, ooh, enough that I just gotta try it once.
Well, I have like special like strains that you don't see all the time, and someone will do a run of it, and I'll get really excited and go pick some up just because you don't see it all the time, you know.
I don't think we probably get fancy strains in our dispensary like you guys probably do. That's for sure.
Well, and I think it's state to state because if you go across the state line to Idaho, a cop can put me in jail for 5 years for the amount of weed I have in my table right here. Like I've got like a couple eights in here, and I'm pretty sure they could send me to jail.
And that's the funny thing too, is a lot of people think just because it's legalized, it's still not decriminalized here for having a certain amount of weed as well. So it's kind of a fine line having it legalized.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, I'm sure it has a lot to do with the attitude of the individual police officer there, just like it does here, depending on what you get caught with, how far over you are, what kind of day the cop's having, what time of the month it is, even sometimes if they're like
Yeah.
late and they need to make quota.
Hmm.
Yeah. So all kinds of stuff. Speaking of consuming cannabis, like how old were you when you first consumed cannabis?
So, funny story. The very, very first time I ever tried weed was 14. I was at a friend's and we just smoked a little joint and went back to her house. But my parents found out. My mom scared me shitless, and I wasn't allowed to see my friends ever again.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, I ended up being one of those really ignorant, I hate weed smokers for a long time until unfortunately I got addicted to hard drugs.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I was trying to get myself sober off hard drugs that I ended up starting consuming weed. And it was kind of a crutch to help me get sober. And I guess that was what, probably around 25, 26.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Interesting. So,
So
once as
I
like a young teenager and then once again in recovery.
mm-hmm.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I didn't have a similar experience. I grew up in well, I guess it depends on who you ask. Some people will call it a southern state. Some people
Mm-hmm.
will call it a southwestern state, and some people refuse to include it. And I'm from Texas. Um, so I had access to very bad, shitty, not very good weed when I was a teenager. So the first, it was brown,
Ooh, ooh,
and
like shake.
it
Ooh.
literally, yes, like, but worse than shake. Like the worst shake you can find in Canada was nothing compared to that. The stuff that you and I find on our floor is better than the stuff we were smoking, Mel. Um,
Ooh.
so anyway, so long story short, my buddy was like, "You want to try weed?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it." And I think I was like 15, or I hope I didn't say his name. It doesn't. I've heard him. Anyway, so like, we're out in his backyard, and he pulls out this little highlighter rig that he's put some aluminum foil in, and so he's got this homemade pipe. And we spark up this weed, and I didn't get high. I got hungry. I ate a big pizza, but I didn't really get high. And I was like, man, this is bullshit. So we went on that night to drink like 3 bottles of Robitussin and Robo while watching like Disney movies. So that was the vibe. So that worked, but the weed didn't. But then when I was older, like I didn't really try it again because like I don't want to get hungry and have a headache. That's boring. So like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't smoke it again until visiting a friend of mine in college, and he had some, and he gave it to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. All right, so this isn't garbage. This isn't
You're
bullshit.
about.
Yeah. So and so like, and I didn't do it very often, but once I get out of the army, I kind of started doing it a lot more often.
Mm-hmm.
So you found it useful in recovery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find like a lot of times, like if I have surgery or something, I have a few medical problems. Cannabis is vital to, because I feel like I experience withdrawals anytime I have to do a round of pain pills. Um,
Ugh, pain
so
pills.
so I need the weed to get over the hump the first
Mhm.
2 days I'm off of them. It just helps so much more, and it makes it so much less painful. And so I think that if anyone, like for instance, who's older, or who does cycles of surgery, or who's a disabled vet who has surgeries frequently, I mean, if you're coming on and off pain pills a lot because you need them because you're getting your bones cut on and stuff,
Mhm.
please, if you don't smoke weed on the reg, a couple of bowls on the days that you're recovering from the opioids.
Even that rosin
Yeah.
that you put under your tongue with food. People put it in their belly buttons at night and put a band-aid on.
Yeah.
It's amazing for pain.
I agree with you. Yeah. It's really helpful. And it
Mm-hmm.
also helps cut that withdrawal. Like a lot of times, when I start sweating the day after I quit real bad,
Mm-hmm.
the cannabis can help with that a little bit. I get physically addicted to like stuff really quickly. I think if it's
That's
possible.
me. I've got an addictive personality. I'll even find that sometimes my Tylenol, I'll just be sitting there and I'll keep upping the dosage, even though I don't need it.
Oh
And then
right.
I'll put it away and stuff because I notice, what am I doing? I don't need this. Why am I upping it? Like, I'm not even in pain anymore. Like, stop taking it.
Yeah.
There's addictive personality that I tend to just latch onto it. So I have to be careful. I'm the exact same way.
So I understand you grew cannabis one time, but you had limited success. What exactly happened?
So I had a friend give me a plant with like just tiny little buds, and I was doing really good. She knew I wanted to grow, so she gave me one. It was like, here, you can do this. And I did. I left it outside. It did really good. The only thing was she warned me that the greenhouse didn't have enough ventilation. And I was
Oof.
like, okay, yeah, sure, it's got a hole, but I didn't click that you needed like actual fans and vent for
Yeah.
them. So I went away on a camping trip for 2 days, put my baby in the greenhouse, and she did not make it, and I could not revive her. I was so
Oh
upset about
no. Yeah, so when it's warm enough for them to live outside,
it. Mhm,
especially if you don't feel the need to cover them, like if they're vegging and they're not flowering, some people cover the whole time they're growing. Some people cover at the end to protect the flowers. And some
mhm.
people are like me and I grow outside in full sun and weather happens and sometimes I get screwed, but I like it being completely outdoors. Um,
I wish I could, but my town is unfortunately a cesspool and people steal shit.
oh no.
So we do not, like, I have a lock on my greenhouse just for my hoses and stuff.
Oh my
So
Lord,
unfortunately,
they're stealing hoses.
oh, you don't. Okay, so here's a little history lesson about Prince George.
Okay.
10, 15 years ago, we were actually labeled the um top number three. It was either the top third or the number one um crime ridden town of North America.
Well, how
we
many people live in Prince George?
um at that time it was just the gangs that were causing a lot of, there's drug wars and shit going on. So we had a lot of drug and gang violence going on. So it was actually pretty scary. There's a lot of like shoot ups downtown and stuff. It's not nearly as bad anymore. Like, you could walk around downtown and not be scared someone's going to shoot you up or anything. But for a little bit, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty scary. Um, we also have something called the Highway of Tears, which is known for Aboriginal women who are hitchhiking
I've
and,
heard of that. That's near Prince George, is it?
yeah, unfortunately, it goes straight through Prince George.
That's
Right on
too.
the outskirts of Prince George is where one of the biggest places are that women go missing. Um,
Oh man, that sucks.
Prince George isn't a well-known place. Well, not well-known,
I,
but not. It's not a very well-liked place. It's
I've
getting better. It's
I've
clean.
never
But
I've never heard of it until I met you. That's crazy.
oh my gosh, if you, we were actually in a documentary. I believe it was the first, no, it wasn't the first 48. It was a Netflix. It may have been with the Highway of Tears. Nathan Fillion did a narration of the documentary,
Okay.
and we were talked about in there because we had Canada's youngest serial killer in Prince George, who unfortunately killed a friend of mine, no, a friend of mine. There we go, Lauren. She was such a sweet girl, but Cody, he was one of the youngest ones here, so we're pretty well known for negative
What
things.
a weird subculture that Prince George seems to have of serial
Right? So
killers. Okay.
it's not necessarily the best place to be leaving weed growing in your
I
yard.
feel that. I feel that. Yeah, and like I see a lot of people where I live grow outdoors and usually my plants aren't this big. So they're not much
Mhm.
of a target cuz like why would you Why would you commit like a bunch of crimes for like a quarter
Yeah,
like
just
pound
a
of
little.
weed when you could
Yeah.
literally go like on a big grow, steal it easier with less hassle? Like why, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like I'm not
oh
a prime
man, this
target.
town, they'll steal a bike.
Well, and also there's other ways, other places to steal it. If you know, I hope that it's a target rich environment because a lot of people grow outdoors in Oregon. So hopefully they'll go elsewhere. I'm hoping.
Yeah, they'll probably go for a bigger bang for the buck, to be honest. Where here, this town, it doesn't matter. It's pretty great.
Well, some towns are like that. There's towns nearby that if I lived in, I would never ever let my cannabis go over the fence, even if just for a month.
Yeah,
Now,
I
yeah,
understand.
exactly. Yeah.
Wrong. There's good to Prince George too. We've got positives, but I wouldn't personally grow and just leave my plants outdoor to grow on their own.
Okay,
Uh,
interesting.
they definitely, that's why I should have thought better when growing in my greenhouse. It would have been totally plausible to do that and leave it in the greenhouse the whole time. But I definitely would need fans and a water system in there. I didn't really click how much, I guess, work it took to actually commit to growing a plant. Like tomatoes and squash and stuff are a little bit easier, where
Yes.
these are like a full time. It was really cool though, watching like it kind of like sunflowers where like they droop, but
Yes.
they have so much more personality than sunflowers. Watching the way they reach and turn towards the sun and stuff, and then like droop at night, it was just so cool to do.
Somebody's gonna grow again when she gets a chance. I can tell.
Ooh.
You've got the bug. It's in you. I could tell the way you're talking about the plants.
Needs. It's just trying to get myself into the routine where I actually get it stuck into routine. I get the
Yes.
beginning routine
Plants are
and
like kids. You have to feed them first thing in the morning or they die.
yes, and I have to continue to feed them. I can't be like, oh, I can skip today. It'll
Nope.
be okay.
Nope.
No, you can't. And that's where I fail. It's the idea of plants. Oh, I could totally skip one day. They'll be okay. No, 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 no.
Well, and sometimes you do have to leave them alone. Sometimes you go out in
That's
the garden and
watery.
you
That too.
don't water. Yeah. We were talking a little bit about growing and your mixed luck there, but I understand you also pursue other things a little bit more professionally. Like right now, you're a professional piercer. That's fucking
Okay.
cool.
Thank you.
Tell me about the place you work. You were telling me about it. Sounds really cool.
I work at the Coven House, which is a wonderful ladies. We're all mothers. We have 5 rooms there. We have Robin, who does our sigil candle, who is part owner. We have Emma, who is part owner as well, and she does nocturnal wellness. She does tarot readings, Reiki readings, and relaxation massage. We have Tara, who does lashes, Ruby, who does hair, and then me, I'm the piercer down the hall. We're just a bunch of witches that really were passionate about opening up a business, but we also really wanted to show off our talents, um, and just kind of make it an all in stop go, all in one stop go. Does that make sense?
All in one stop and go, stop and go.
Yeah, all in one stop to, yeah, exactly.
A one stop shop, maybe.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
We got there.
Yeah, it's wonderful because I've been practicing witchcraft since I was like a teen. I never thought in my entire life I could make it a job, let alone also be doing my dream job, piercing as well. It's crazy to think.
Okay. Yeah, that's really neat. So, like, I guess we could go two different ways. I have written here. What's the oddest request you've gotten? Either we could take that either way. What's the oddest request you've gotten at work recently?
I mean, out of my whole piercing career, I've done so many genital piercings,
Oh,
both
okay.
females. One of the weirdest one is probably the Ginch. Oh,
I have to
on
look that up.
That or the Ginch, it's basically your taint. It's
Oh, okay. Wow. Ooh. Just
that it's
yeah, I
just
don't that's not the one I want. So in between your anus and your testicles, people are getting that
yeah,
pierced.
yeah, not a lot, but I mean it is for sensational reasons. I've done a couple. Um they're I mean, power to them. I all I could think about is how do I wipe my bum?
Yeah, like how do you keep that clean? I totally, yeah, it's like it's wild. Yeah.
Basically, well, not douche, but bidet that, spray that.
Oh God. I never
But
see, I literally never heard of that. You blew my mind.
you learn about a lot. Like I learned and stuff like that. But they're very rare that people actually do like them.
Right.
Um, but then it goes for spell work. Spell work is probably the weirdest one, is probably hex work.
Okay.
Um, just because I personally believe what you put out into the earth is what you get back. So I'm not one to um I don't know, put a negative hex, something negative towards
You're not
somebody.
just slanging chaos magic at people.
No. Oh, one of the funniest customers we did get, you'll get a kick out of this. He was probably, I don't know, he's got to be mid 20s, I don't know, early 20s or something like that. And he comes in, he's like, oh my gosh, you guys are witches? And we smile. We're like, yeah, yes, we are. And he's like, do you guys do like sacrifices and stuff? And at first I thought he was joking, but no, this guy was dead serious. And so of course Robin and I were like joking. We're like, yeah, the back rooms where we take all the men like you, and we've got some dogs and stuff. And he looked terrified. We just laughed and we're like, we're joking. All we do is herbs here.
Well, yeah, and
Oh,
people have their idea of like the pagan and like being all dark. And a lot of times I don't know about for you, but to
mhm.
me, a lot of spell work is much less like that I've seen or witnessed or been a part of has always looked more, don't take this the wrong way, it
Mhm.
looked a little more silly than sinister. Not trying
Well,
to
like
yeah,
potions. You're literally potions.
yeah, like I mean it's not
Fun.
yeah.
It's not. And one of the things I think is the biggest misconception is back before there was things like Google and things were written down and explaining, a newt's eye and things like that were actually herbs. They're not an actual newt's eye that you're taking. We've got dragon's blood, which is a tree resin. We have dove's blood that we make, which is made from tree resin mixed with alcohol to make ink. Like, a lot of the names are deceiving,
Oh
and a
right.
lot of people assume, oh my gosh, they're witches. They sacrifice, listen to the names. But
I made
it's
a
it's
dumb
all
mistake with an herb recently that you're gonna laugh at.
exactly.
I was at this cannabis shop and they also do herbs, and they had mixed together skullcap in a
Yes.
joint, in this
Mhm.
indica joint, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, oh, but see, in my mind, I don't know if it's because I played too much Skyrim or
Yeah, see,
what. I'm like, oh, what kind of mushroom is
different.
skullcap? And the guy looks at me like, what are you talking about? Skullcap's a plant. I'm like, oh, okay. That makes sense. I was smoking it.
we, we sell skull cap, and it's actually a lot of our herbs are smokable. A lot of people will mix them in with teas or with their weed, like lavender, chamomile.
Yep.
We've got verbena. We have, oh my goodness, we have so many, rose, hibiscus. There's so many different things.
It's
And it's
funny
just,
to me that people roll chamomile in joints because it's also kind of a good companion plant outdoors for cannabis a little bit.
is it for growing?
Yeah, I was fortunate to work with a really gifted female grower in a town near here for a little bit. She just needed a little extra help around the place, and
Hmm.
she had me remove a lookalike weed that looked like, I think it was wild chamomile, but smelled like dog feces.
Oh, I wonder if that's it's spelt very similar. It's not chamomile. It's uh uh
You're
That's
you're
gonna be
you're
it's
gonna
one of
you're talking to the wrong guy. I am not an
oh,
herbal
it's on the
guy.
tip of my tongue because we sell a lot of it and it does smell like ass, but
So
it looks
fresh, it smells even worse, I would imagine.
probably.
So that's the way I couldn't tell the difference. So literally I would after a minute I could start to tell the difference, but I had to smell it.
Oh, that's gonna bug me until I remember it. It's not chamomile. It's oh, come on, Melissa. It's one of our top sellers too. I'm gonna
Let
remember
it
it.
I'm gonna write stinky chamomile into Google and I guarantee you it's gonna spit it out.
It probably will.
Can't how to now see now I don't know how to spell camo. Come on,
See,
Google, fix my spelling. Anthemis cotula? Co
sorry.
I'm Anthemis cotula, also known as stinking chamomile or mayweed,
No,
is
that's not the
is
one I'm thinking
is a
of.
flowering annual plant and with a noticeably strong odor. The odor is often considered unpleasant. I'm looking. It looks. Is this what I'm looking at? This might not be it. Anyway, there's a few. There's a
I
few.
will trust me. I have it on the tip of my tongue, and I know I have some in my bedroom. I will have to send you a picture of it because I
Okay.
it drive me nuts because
When
I
you
know
remember, send me an email, a message on Insta, so I can, because now it's gonna bug me.
we'll
Because
have to confirm because I actually go into work tomorrow. So I'm gonna take a big old picture of it and I'll be like, "Is
because I've
this
got
it?"
Anthemis and Cotula right now. That's all I'm pulling up.
No, it starts. It's a CH and then it's
Huh. Weird.
A and then it's something else because I used to get both of them mixed up. The only difference is it has a tiny bit more like reddish orange to it than
Okay.
yellow.
Huh.
So I'm pretty sure they look very, very similar. Oh, it's gonna bug me because I know it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
So back to the weird hexes. What kind? Like, has someone come in there asking to like for hexes? That's such a
Yeah,
weird thing.
basically just what they had like a bad friendship end or something like that, and they just wanted to hex somebody, and it's not what we want to do. You can easily look up how to do a hex and stuff like that. We fully believe in not putting out negative energy. That is what we do. We will do like cord cutting spells. We'll um things to help you separate from somebody.
Right. That's not always negative. It can be painful, but that's not always negative.
Yeah. I mean, we've had
Um I
great.
don't I you're not doing spiritual drive-bys over there.
No, but we have had some weird people where we think they've been possessed by old spirits and things like that, where they were stupid enough to dabble and not protect, and there's nothing more we can do but to kind of guide them kind of where they need to go. We had a guy come in and he was just playing around with bringing it up an old spirit, and she needed to what was it, something to do with her sons. She needed to forgive her sons before her passing. um and he basically has no, he can't get rid of her until he helps do that for her. He was stupid enough to call upon her. And he's come to us trying to get, we do intention candles and sigil candles. And his sigil is he wanted to ward off this evil spirit. But we're noticing like the wick is tying itself in a knot and it's saying, we can't do this. And the more the girls and I talk, the more we're like, well, it seems like there's nothing we can physically do but let you
Folks,
do what
don't make
you
deals.
hmm?
Don't make deals, especially if you
Hmm.
don't understand the term of the deal you're making.
Exactly. Like we can't, it's not an evil spirit. He's trying to treat it as an evil spirit, but the thing is he called upon this, he let it be the vessel. There's nothing we can do more than to let it play out.
Right.
um, we've gotten a lot of people like that. We've gotten some strange stories, some cool pictures. We've had spirits in the shop playing with the necklaces, hiding their lighters.
So yeah, that sounds like when you're getting active, stuff gets active.
Hmm.
So so back to piercings.
Hmm.
So we've talked about weird piercings, but what's your like favorite piercing to give people? I assume that like every piercer probably has one they like to do more than others, right?
Probably. I think nipples, just because they're so easy to do, they're so fun to make look pretty with just an easy piece of jewelry.
Okay.
Everyone seems to love them. And it tends to be a confidence booster for a lot of people. At least personally for me, I find a lot of the times um, when you're self-conscious about something and you just want to try and love yourself and feel good, putting a decoration on there that's just something sparkly and pretty really does help. It intensifies, like it's a confident booster. And I find with such an intimate area where it's more just for you, um, people tend to be like, it just boosts the self-confidence, just
Okay.
something self. I don't know. That tends to be my favorite. For males and females, non-binary, anybody can really get them and still be such a confidence booster. So I think that's probably my favorite. But I don't know. There's so many. I just enjoy making people happy with themselves and inspired. I get a lot of people that come to me that are like, I have been just trying to find myself and I feel like now's the time I want to do this. And I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. And afterwards, they're so happy and that makes me happy. So that's why I love my job. I love being able to give that, I don't know, just that smile in the end of the day where they love their self a little bit more.
Right, right. Yeah. I definitely find that like every time I get a body modification, like I'm usually pretty excited about it. I've ever slightly regretted one, and that was because I woke up on the floor with it. So when you do that, it's like, but I kept it. I didn't get rid of it.
I mean, like tattoo wise, I've got some that I regret, but none that I ever want to actually like permanently. I would laser off. I would rather just get something covered up,
Right,
new
yeah.
off of it, rather than one of those where I'm so regretful that I just want to laser it off.
So I have a regrettable tattoo that
Mhm.
that like I don't have a love-hate relationship with it anymore. I don't mind it, but
Mhm.
every other person in my life gets an enormous kick out of it. So it's always funny because I'm like, well, here's this thing, and everyone's like, oh man. I'm like, yep, thing that I have.
that's that's kind of like mine. I'll sit there and people are like, well, at least you didn't get something dumb. And I'm like, oh, just you wait, just you wait. Makes murder choices with friends and intoxication.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was very, very, very drunk when I got my first tattoo, and I
Oh,
was
see,
I was in a foreign country too.
ooh, ooh, that makes it more.
No, it was okay. We did it on American soil. We did it in the barracks.
Oh, okay.
So it's all clean, right? All good. Blacked out mid tattoo and woke up with it on the floor, like in a pile of like orange sunrise. What is a vodka? What do you call it? A screwdriver vomit. There you go.
All I can imagine. My grandpa told me that he let them pierce his ears once with a sewing needle. Oh,
Oh, I hope they burned it real good first.
are you serious?
I see. I would never get like an amateur piercing, but I have an amateur tattoo, and I don't know how much better that
Kind of
is.
worse though,
Yeah,
because you're putting
right.
it
Over
into
and
you.
over again. You're just doing it once with the piercing, right? That's one chance for infection, right?
Oh Lord. Woo.
Well, yeah. Anyway, the army was a wonderful place.
I mean, a couple of mine were like in my house tattoos high on cocaine. So I mean, like really.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a vibe for sure.
right.
I
This is
never
this,
I never danced with that particular devil.
but see, that's me. I wasn't much of a boozy. I went the other way, the other direction. But that's why I'm
Oh yeah.
now.
No, see, I can't drink anymore. I have problems from that too.
Fair.
But so what do you think people should think about before they get a piercing? Because I know a lot of people just kind of go, and I know I've gotten some on an impulse, but I also sort of knew what I was getting into. But what do you
I
think people should know before they get one or before they think about getting one?
personally, I would research your piercing, research what you're getting, research who you're going to. A lot of people like, it's okay to ask your piercer questions, of course, but I find a lot of piercings that become trends
Yeah,
either are not safe or they are high maintenance piercings that
right.
a lot of people who either they're going for their first one or don't know anything about it come in and they get pretty upset. And one of the biggest thing is a reputable piercer, excuse me, will always check your anatomy. They will never just say yes right away. They'll always check your anatomy to make sure it is doable. Just because you can put a piercing anywhere doesn't mean it's safe, doesn't mean you have the anatomy for it. A good piercer wants you to have a healthy, good piercing placement. That is one of the biggest things. A lot of people expect that you could just go to a piercer and you can get any piercing you want, which unfortunately isn't true.
That's why they're named, because there's only so many.
And so unfortunately, not everybody's built and shaped the same way. So sometimes you can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
So that's why I would always think about either alternatives or what I suggest to some people that really want the piercing. But for instance, I had a girl come in and she really wanted her bridge done, which is right above your nose.
Right.
And unfortunately, she just doesn't have the structure for it.
Right.
Her structure is it's all bone. There's no little
Oof.
divot for it for her to sit. So what would happen is it would literally push out and just leave a horrible scar, and
Right.
it wouldn't be a fun process for her. So I always suggest if it's something you really like, take eyelash glue, take little gems and things like that, and put eyelash glue there, and then you can always fake the piercing. If it's something that like it's the only one you ever wanted, and
Right.
unfortunately you get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
You
and
know,
I would say I've even had, I wouldn't call it buyer's remorse. I love my industrial and I'm never taking it out.
industrial.
However, I I got regular ear piercings and I gauged them very slowly. And then one day my partner, my wife was in the shop and she was like, "Hey, do you want a piercing?" She's like, "You were talking about getting an industrial for a while. Do you want one?" I'm like, "Sure." It was my first cartilage piercing.
Oof.
And it was fine. It hurt, but it was fine. But what I wasn't ready for was the 6 month long to a year recovery that piercing can sometimes take.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that it was one of the more painful ones either.
Well, and I find a lot of people don't really have the anatomy for it. A lot of the times, the reason it's healing improperly and taking so long is because the angle's incorrect, or you've got your ear in the middle tends to stick up a little bit more, so the
Right.
bar rubs and stuff. So, but they are cartilage piercings in general take like 6 months to heal
Yeah.
to 8 months just because of the fact
That was
they're
about how long it took. Yeah.
yeah, you're sleeping on them and stuff, so they can tend to be a little bit longer to heal. They're a pain. That's
Oh
why I
yeah.
never went with any other ear piercings. I remember trying to do a couple. I did my conch and a couple higher cartilage. I
Yeah.
took I think after a couple months, I was like, nope, I'm good.
See, that's so funny because, like, to me, like an ear piercing is just so much lower, like, lower, what would you call it? Like, lower risks for me. Because, like, to me, the thought of getting my face pierced or like my nose pierced is just so like beyond the realm of like what's like possible for me in my head. But I could literally see myself having like scales for earrings all the way around my lobe if my anatomy works for it. Like, but I will never get a nose piercing. Oh
Got
my
nine
lord.
lip piercings.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. The healing for lip piercings isn't too bad. I found it's the first couple days that suck because everything's so swollen.
Right.
But after that, I find for me, the pain goes away. Where the ear piercings, the pain stays a lot longer. It's that annoying, um, I guess almost drumming or thumping that you
Yep.
get from
Hmm.
it. I don't, maybe it's a sensory thing for me. I personally cannot deal with it. It hurts. Where the lip, after a couple days, that it's like basically swelling done. You just got to make sure not to bump it and stuff until you can change your bar.
Oh
So
yeah. And well, and you've
yeah,
got a lot of facial piercings too. You're not like lightly pierced on your face. You've
no,
got, yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
pretty much
yeah, and that's
yeah.
that's the first person I've heard tell me like, yeah, face is easy. I don't like ears. Give me face. Because
Yeah,
you don't
no.
usually hear that from people.
No, a lot of people tend to go for the ear first. They're like, oh yeah, ears. If I can do an ear, maybe I'll work my way to the face.
I
But
have I have bad habits. I feel like I've had anything in my lip. I would just clang it on my teeth until I knock my teeth out.
I definitely have the habit of fidgeting. I'm very ADHD. I fidget with my very top piercings. Sometimes I will fidget to the point where I do have to change it to the long bar and leave it alone because it's sore. But I did have to take my tongue rings out because of that. I had three.
Oh,
My
whoa.
middle one was stretched to an 8 gauge.
In your
Um,
tongue?
yeah, yeah, I'll have to show you
Very,
pictures.
yeah. Wow, rad.
I originally had an 8 gauge in the middle of my tongue ring because I was going to split my tongue.
And I can edit that out if you need me to. No worries.
It doesn't matter. Just hold on. Can you help anybody else?
Toilet paper in there?
No, I don't. Yeah, they're gone. Okay, we're good.
Gotta feed them every day or they'll die.
I fed them before this, I swear.
So I think that's kind of our cue. Is there anything you'd like to plug before you get out of here? Anything? I know you've got a lot of social media, you've got a lot of stuff going on.
No, just if you ever come to BC, Canada, make sure you stop into Prince George and make your way to the Coven House. It is the coolest store in town.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the Bagseed Chronicles, Mel. I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Bye.
You can reach me, Uncle Dig, on Instagram at Uncle Dig. The bumper music on this podcast was produced by Chad DeVilliers on ukulele. He can be followed on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid or on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises. Thank you for listening to the Bagseed Chronicles.
We're just a bunch of witches in my house, tattoos, high on cocaine.